mathematics ina maana kwa sababu wazungu walitengeneza maisha ambayo lazima utumie mathematics kuyafikia. This means njia zetu nyingine zote zinaonekana hazina maana.
So now
kwa hiyo walitengeneza tatizo alafu wakaja na solution.
So Bandio niko na jibu.
Okay, sawa. But I think what Bandio is trying to put together here, and to a certain extent I agree with him. I think the problem with the way our education is imparted, or the way it's taught, for example, mathematics, there's no connection to local examples. A lot of these formats of teaching are Western, and sometimes it takes something as simple as even names. You know, like when kids are learning, it makes a big difference if you use Omondi or if you use Matthew. You know, it makes a big difference. And even examples, using examples that they're already familiar with. So that doesn't happen. So you'll see a math problem in, you know, like maybe a Kenyan setting, whereby they're talking about apples, whereby day to day, they're counting apples, where day to day, those children are not eating apples. The other fruits that they could use, or maybe they're using strawberries. Day to day, those kids are not using strawberries. So in those examples, it slows down the time it takes those kids to understand.
The thing is, the math was there. The only thing that we can say is the difference is the application of the mathematics.
Okay, so
because hata mimi sasa hivi mimi nilikuwa nafanya multiplication, is not the same way my 9-year-old niece is doing multiplication. It's totally different.
So mimi nitasema kitu kimoja. Amezungumza hapa Mika, and I totally agree. Kwanza Wacheka ameniuliza kwamba zamani kabla ya wazungu kuja kwa kuna mathematics. Yes. Tulikuwa tunahesabu. Mimi nimekuwa katika zama ambazo kulikuwa ukienda nje ya nyumba ya bibi, kulikuwa kuna miti, imewekwa viti 1, 2 na walikuwa wanajua kwamba jua la kivuli kikifika hapa ni muda wa mtoto kunywa uji, ikifika hapa ni muda wa kula. Kwa hiyo hata kama walikuwa wanajua kwamba hii ni saa 6, hii ni saa 7, lakini kulikuwa kuna namna ya kucalculate muda wa siku. Walikuwa wanajua misimu, hakujua kwamba kuna fall, kuna winter, lakini walikuwa wanajua msimu gani tulime, mvua itakuja, itafanya hivi. Nakumbuka babu yangu mimi alikuwa anakuambia kesho mvua itanyesha kubwa sana, toeni vitu. Kwa sababu gani? Kwa sababu kama mvua itakuja kunyesha, ina maana kutoka kuna cloud cover, joto litakapokuwa linaondoka haliendi juu, kuna kwa kuko humid, ni vitu ambavyo tulikuwa tuna visense vyote. Leo hii hamna mtu anataka hivyo, anataka kuingia weather.com atasikia kesho kutakuwa kuna mvua. Si kwamba zamani hatakuwa na namna kufanya hivyo.
We know that roads are being tarmacked, sewer lines are being launched, and digital hubs being announced since the broad-based government between Raila and Ruto. And we want to begin deep in the streets of Nairobi, where President Ruto just wrapped up a week-long tour that looked more like a political campaign. We saw the speeches, we saw the ribbon cutting, we saw tarmacked roads being unveiled and sewer lines launched like they were tech startups, and also on the launch train were youth hubs and digital job centers with promises of rapid transformation. Now, many Kenyans are, however, asking, is this the turning point for Ruto's government, or is it just a dress rehearsal for elections 2027? Now, on panel with me tonight is Uno Mike, DJ Moshfire, and Mika Och. We'll be digging beneath the surface to find out what exactly the tour delivered. What is the ground saying, and are diasporas disconnected from what the ground is saying? Because you're seeing those rallies, they're big, so many people are attending, and so many people are getting entertained in those rallies. But before we get started on the development tour, we know that a 79-year-old British tourist, Edgar Charles Frederick, was killed. He was struck by a speeding vehicle in President Ruto's motorcade, which sped on and never stopped. I want to welcome you, DJ Moshfire. Get us started. Just tell us your brief thoughts about this unfortunate incident before we start our conversation about the development tour and all that. Tell us your thoughts about this unfortunate incident where a British tourist who was in the country for only 2 weeks got killed by the speeding motorcade of President Ruto. DJ Moshfire, karibu sana.
Hello. I think OneMic was on vacation. Looks like. Uno, am I there? Can you hear me? I can hear myself.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yes. Asante, Bwana Ali. Karibuni. niseme ni watazamaji, wachangiaji, watu wetu, sijui kina nani.
Why is Mika laughing?
Because I'm speaking Oswahili.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you know the guy.
Magharibi?
Yeah, he thinks I don't know kushoto kulia. So
Oswayo.
Omera, I will see you later outside the Guinea. So, Ali, you know, growing up, we always saw the presidential motorcade, right? And I don't know, for me, the president at that time who I really saw a lot of was MO1. And MO1's motorcade, I think for me, I never saw it speeding. Like, it's almost like, because the guy always used to stop at places on his way from his home, wherever it was. He always stopped somewhere. He'd stop at a school. He would stop at a Sijui's. You know, he was always stopping somewhere. But these other guys these days, if you're in their way, and it's not only the presidential, but just pretty much any one of those government officials who have the flashing lights or have flags on their cars, it's a problem. And so you would think at some point that there has to be caution about, yes, there's security to it. And, you know, that's part of the reason why they move fast, you know. So because if for one, if you are even trying to catch up with them, akuna, and then if there's something along the path or way, hopefully, kuna vile uneza, you know, uneza pita before kitu ilipuke or whatever. But the rhyme and the reason to it without thinking of life doesn't make sense.
Right.
And then when tragedy has occurred, you would think, and I could be wrong, there's an ambulance in that motorcade, or at least there's a medical something or whatever. Maybe it's enough to even stop, do something, you know, or at least ata mchukue mtu mweke ndani ya gari muendele mkienda na yeye or something. But it's like, whatever, ujisort. That doesn't sit well with me, because this time ni mzungu, and maybe there'll be a lot of hulabu because ni mzungu and it's a tourist who had only been in the country for 2 weeks, and you know they are what did you say, was a British national?
Yes.
You know, so those things will bring more I guess more of a magnifying glass to, you know, to our people, but it should never be. We shouldn't be at the point where these jamas are so reckless with the so-called security that you even run over people. And by the way, these sorts of things have even happened with security personnel. You know, when they are running to the cars, the door hits them, or the guy, you know, he jumps out of the motor.
Yeah, and then they're riding, you know, like outside a moving
gunshot,
car.
yes.
Yeah.
They normally they have the rails there, you know, and that's like leading up to, you know. But during campaign time is when you actually see them doing some acrobatics. Mpaka hata wewe mwenyewe unashika dabu, you're like, hey, this doesn't make sense. They're on the back, they're on the side, there's what. So there needs to be some sort of onus for these people to be held accountable. And I'm sure it's on video, it's somewhere. Somebody has all of that stuff. These jamas need to be prosecuted, whoever they are. And whoever is in charge of that whole nini. The whole point of it is there's a safe way of moving around, and there's a way of moving around such that you harm people.
But you know, it's protocol when when the presidential entourage is moving, you're supposed to clear the road.
Now,
correct. There are those jamas. Yeah, you're right. Because normally they clear the road ahead, right?
Yeah. Now as we get to introduce Mika, I've always wondered, and of course, remember the number to call is 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. Mika, I've always wondered, is there a security reason for those vehicles to move that fast? Because first of all, those vehicles are so many. They could be even sometimes up to 50 or even more. Is there any security reason for that? And is there any particular reason why they have to move at breaknecking speeds
Yes,
when they're passing?
a moving target is hard to shoot. Simple as that.
Now,
A moving target is hard to shoot.
Yeah.
So remember that is the president of the country that is being carried over there. Even right here, when you see the beast on the highway, it flies.
Yes.
It doesn't go that slow. It doesn't drive slowly. It flies. It's protocol in all countries that when the presidential entourage is moving, you're not supposed to be on the road. Like it's just known. As in, it's quite unfortunate that somebody died. It's quite unfortunate that maybe, and it was not even. It was one of the it was not even the leading chase cars that hit. It was one of those that were in the middle, in between after amepita hizo zenye zinafuata nyuma.
Yeah, sometimes
think
kuna
it's
big
one of-
gap in between.
Yeah, it's so that's why you're wondering. So if already the chase, the pacers that come, which is usually a motorbike, which clears the road, and then when the motorbike comes, you'll find like 2 sedans which also come, and they have presidential escort on the knee. With this one, the ones that push you out of the road completely, and then now his stream of vehicles start coming, and in between there, depending on the formation they're driving in, he'll be there in the middle of it, and then there's the chasers from behind who are coming also. So now the thing is, what I didn't understand is, if he wasn't hit by the first car, how was he hit by the cars in the middle of the entourage? So that also shows, was there some sort of negligence from the deceased, aliamua kuvuka barabara ama
Commit suicide.
I wouldn't say suicide. I would just say maybe nimengoja kutosha, wacha nijaribu kuvuka barabara, and he was caught out by something that came out late. So the thing is, almost what his family will get will be compensation for his death. But I don't think there's anybody who's going to be held accountable or be told to be punished, because you'll be asked
sad.
why.
It's a life lost.
Yeah, it's a life lost. There's no price for law, so there's no price for life. So this again should be where we go back to the drawing board, because this is not the same. There's a police officer who died at JKIA, same situation, and they said that he was hit by a different motorist, but people are saying that he was hit by one of the chase cars. He's actually a chief police. He's a senior police officer who's in charge of directing the traffic at JKIA or something. He was killed. Yeah.
Mika, so mmesema hakupata medical attention?
No,
No,
he
got a medical attention.
No, but he died on the spot, according to a report from Citizen. His head was crushed and his chest.
I saw video.
And then the cars that were passing after also ran over him. So it was multiple cars.
So he
Alipigwa na
was,
magari kadhaa.
he was chapated.
Yes.
For lack of a better,
there was a video. There was a video that actually captured the whole.
Okay.
The whole thing. So
my question
it was
is,
a bad accident.
kwa Marekani, it's known kwamba minimum ya motorcade ya raisi inakuwa na magari kadhaa. Nakumbuka I reported that in Amplifier like 10 years ago. Wakati Obama anakwenda Tanzania. I don't remember exact number, but there's a minimum kwamba kutokuwa kuna ground force 1, that's suburban. Kutokuwa kuna ambulance, kutokuwa kuna sikumbuki gari nyingine, kuna hiyo Cadillac, kuna Cadillac, then kuna the Beast, alafu na ground force 1 ambayo ndio inahusisha communication na Pentagon, iko connected directly na Pentagon. Then lazima kunakuwa kuna gari ya afya, masuala ya matibabu and all this stuff, and I'm not sure kwa Kenya kama ni the same.
No, so Kenya,
there's usually an ambulance, actually not one.
Okay.
Kwangi moja, alafu kuna kwanga pia na one that is capable of fighting a fire, not necessarily a full fire truck, but hiyo pia inakuwa kwa entourage, because basically how do you attack a vehicle? You attack a vehicle with explosives.
Yes.
Most of the time, right?
Now, here's my question, because I think most of the time, in Kenya or on the African continent, yes, maybe there might be a reason to have that many vehicles, but I think mara nyingi it's a show of force, because think about it, when you move like that, una move to tuseme like in a city, or even if you're going to another part of the country and there's that movement, there's a show of force that the people feel when they see that happening. And now unfortunately in Kenya, kuna now 47 presidents in the 47 counties. So governors are doing the same thing. They're starting to move, maybe not as many cars as the president, but they're moving with multiple
Sisi
cars.
Tanzania tunampaka rais wa Wasafi.
Yeah.
Na moto.
Wewe unajua mpaka nani Museveni utembea nacho.
Yule umri wake anaweza kahitaji ni time. But anyway,
no, like he has a truck that's a toilet. His toilet.
Yeah. Lakini my point is, Mika amezungumzia kwamba, fast moving target is hard to, is hard to eat. The issue is wanakwenda so fast, alafu wanakuja wanasimama same so insecure.
Now,
wanaanza kuzungumza na wananchi.
Na unajua interesting bandio, hiyo hao wananchi ambao wanamzunguka hakuna ambaye ameangaliwa, because sometimes wanaenda kwa roadside random.
That's my point.
Ambaye, so
what's the point uko uchochoroni unakwenda 200 miles an hour, unafika unasimama katika mji ambao nobody has checked anybody, unaamini tu kwamba mambo yatakuwa sawa. Hizi video ambazo tumeziona, you know.
But I wouldn't say they're that exposed. I wouldn't say that just because they try to make it look like wako within even na watu, but man, ile na Kenya, the things they do, Kenya is
my friend, wanasimama kwenye vijiji, mtu anatoka ndani ya nyumba yake akiwa na guruneti tu pale.
Kuna jamaa za mahindi hapo, jamaa za mahindi
na anajua kwamba anakuja.
No, you know tactically.
Nakwambia kuna jamaa anauza mahindi, huyo jamaa alikuwa amekuja hapo a month ago, amefungua biashara ya mahindi, si jamaa wa kuuza mahindi.
True, but you know, tactically, there's a friend of mine who's in the military who has seen some of those, and he's not even Kenyan, who has seen some of those Kenyan campaigns and some of those situations where the president is on top of a car and there's a big crowd around him. Na anasema, this is the easiest. Anasema it's good that in your countries, like, people are not looking to assassinate the president. Yeah. Anasema this is the easiest, this is the easiest kind of assassination to do.
It looks that easy, but trust me, try assassinating a Kenyan president, you'll know how hard it is.
No, but what I'm saying, you know, someone who's trying to assassinate a president, yeye mwenyewe pia is committing suicide. So we are not saying the person will not be apprehended.
He's not ready for that.
Yeah. We're not saying the person will not be apprehended or anything, but just tactically, you know, like from some of these people who've served in places like Iraq na nini, wakiangalia tu pale, because it takes very quick, because the other thing, you know, like in the US, in a place where there's a crowd around a president, normally there's someone who's checked those people who are close to the president. But Israel is a Kenya, I have attended them. There is no one who checks you. Unafika tu hapo vile ulivo. You know, kama umebeba
silaha. Wewe utaingia kwa rally, hiyo si shida. Unafaa kuangalia number one. These guys risks could train na nani? Train na Mossad. Right? And then they don't train with the Mossad, they train with the SS, the British SS. So it's not like the Kenyan intelligence na hiyo Kenyan the protective services zenye wanatumia are incompetent. They don't know what they're doing. They actually know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And they know the region, and they know the region where they operate.
Yeah, no, so I agree with you.
It might be easy. You might see when okay, the thing is that illusion is supposed to be served, and that's the best thing about it, is that they're supposed to serve you an illusion to assume that he's so open. Yeye ni mtu wa watu, wanakaribia watu wanafurahia, kwa hiyo ndio kwenye mnaona. But if somebody actually tries to harm them, I don't think it's going to be that easy. Or it could have happened, because causing instability in Kenya will be one of the main reasons of all the people who have hatred na nini. How terrorists jaribu kuattack Kenya. Kama presidents wetu wangekuwa very easily kuattack, wangewa-attack. Why waste time ukienda kushoot mall na unaweza kuwa president yuko hapo virahisi, is easy to attack. If it was that easy, they would have done it. Some fool would have tried it by now.
So I agree with you, Mika, but me, you know, like, this is just information I'm also being given by people who understand who understand security, so we can agree to disagree on that.
And mimi nakwambia pia mimi nakwambia Kenya, nakwambia ninaambiwa na mtu mwenye who actually works in that field. So like I had the same question that I asked. Nikambiwa, don't ever assume it's that easy.
But now you see also we in Kenya, for example, or maybe even in East Africa, we've not had that culture of assassination of presidents. So, and then the other thing also, we do not have a supply of weapons the way some other countries have. Unaona, when you move to a country like South Sudan, so many people are armed. If you move to a country like even a country like Uganda, so many people are armed. Ukienda nchi kama sasa, ukianza kuingia kama huku Democratic Republic of Congo, in Kenya, that has not like quite been an issue. But yeah, I can see some comments coming in here. Number of people. I did lose some comments. I wanted to read Nancy Mirosi's comment. Anybody who can see Nancy's comment on Facebook, please isome.
Is it where she wants us to discuss about the mathematics and
Yes.
STEM education in Kenya?
Yes, I think that's a conversation we're gonna have some time, because
She can call.
Kenyan, the number to call is
Nancy,
202-683.
please, don't hesitate.
4570. Press *5 to speak. Nancy, please call in. Like if you want to make a comment or two about STEM education in Kenya and generally education, please give us a call. We'd love to hear from you. Yeah, and so many things, like that have been happening in Kenya. On that same note, on education, I read somewhere that they want to make math an optional subject. That will be the biggest disaster. I don't know of any country in the world that has made math an optional subject. I don't know. Maybe there's one. I don't know.
I'll say this. When there's a time I know in Borimo,
Oh, Borimo.
I'm gonna say the city, but there's a time where mathematics was not mandatory in 3rd and 4th grade, but it was mandatory in college when you enter.
It wasn't mandatory in 3rd and 4th grade.
It was an option,
So let me ask you, what does math teach you?
right?
What does math teach you as a student when you study math? What does it teach you?
Mimi mpaka leo sijai kupata
How to avoid Indian teachers?
X and
No,
Y.
no.
Math is a subject that
Teaches you
you
to
may
think.
not realize it, but it teaches you how to think logically, and how even outside of math. Unaona kama vile you have you're given a problem and there's like 10 ways to solve it. There's so many other skills that you're building up by solving that problem in different ways. Even when you're seeing different ways of solving, it's building other skills outside of math. So
You are spot on that answer. Math expands your brains. Math expands your
Absolutely.
brain. It teaches you to think. It expands your brain, teaches you to think. Because if you realized in math, there's never a true formula to get into a solution. Like you're told, explain how you get your answer, and that's how you get that was how math was graded, right? Like you will be given an equation, and then depending on how you do it, and you're told that the equation can be solved using a logbook, or not using a logbook. So math expands your brain, and if you do technical subjects in college, you come to realize that math becomes one of your easiest subjects, because now those other subjects, you're adding math and you're adding the intricacies of that subject. So say for example, what tulifanya engineering, thermodynamics, ilikuwa hesabu, but hesabu unaongeza na the thermodynamics aspect of it into that math. So when you take away math and you tell people that math is not a mandatory subject, basically you want to raise a group of people who don't think logically, a group of people who can look at a problem and figure out how to solve a problem. Sasa tukisema hapa si wote kwa hii nini tupike nini nyama fry. So tutapika nyama fry but tutapika differently.
Ila mimi sijawahi kukutana na
That is what math
Cosine.
makes you.
mpaka leo sijakutana na pi, sijakutana na cosine.
Pi ilikuwa leo. Kwani unajua pi ilikuwa leo?
Imefanya nini sasa?
Today was pi.
Na bado sija.
acha nikupe mfano bandio of something that people use every day, and part of the problem is the level of math. Unaona, in finance, one of the most difficult concepts.
Ona sasa ameenda finance.
No, one of the most difficult, because what unatumia pesa. Do you use money?
I don't use finance.
But
Okay. Do you get paid? Ndo nasema in finance, one thing that looks simple but it's very difficult to make people understand is a concept of compound interest, and that's been described as the 8th wonder of the
So
world.
right there, Ali.
Yeah.
Hapo.
Yeah.
Sina issue na mathematics kuwa au kutokuwa mandatory. Issue yangu ni kile kinachofundishwa katika mathematics ya kwetu. Sometimes hakireflect utakachokwenda kuishi nacho. Wangekuwa wanafundisha mathematics kupanua wigo katika hizo mambo ya ambayo sasa tunakuja kukutana nayo.
Atikupanua.
Yes. Kupanua wigo.
Unajua one of the problems with
unajua kitu moja bandio, wewe ukiamka asubuhi pange siku yako,
yes,
unakumbuka ukifundishwa time over distance and travel, right?
Correct. Yeah.
speed kilometers per hour nini, wamkufundisha hizo vitu, wewe mwenyewe unajua vile una plan siku yako, unajua unafaa kupitia Beltsville niende hivi nifanye hivi nichukue dakika nini.
Ngoja mimi kamalize.
Yeah.
Unaona?
Ndio.
Right?
Right.
Wewe kwa akili yako sasa unapanga movements zako na siku zako haujui, but you're doing mathematics calculations in your vitu zenye ulijifundisha shule ndogo ndogo za kufundisha kufikiria. Haya. Kwa nyumba yako tu wewe mwenyewe.
Ngoja basi hapo Mika hapo kwenye huo mfano. Unataka kuniambia kama nisingefundishwa siku yangu isingeenda kama ambavyo imeenda?
Kama ungefundishwa ungekuwa unajua time management.
No, that's not true. Na ndio maana nakwambia it's like subiri basi.
Ngoja bandio atuwe.
Kwa sababu hata na mimi kuna kipindi nilipata ku interview wazee ambao wanaendesha majahazi ambao hawajawahi kusoma north and west, north east na nini. Right? Hawana mambo ya north west, north east na nini, na wanakwenda na hawakuwahi kupotea. Umenielewa?
Yeah.
Kuna namna tunaweza tukaaminishwa kwamba Doug Hill anaweza akatumia, na si dispute chochote kuhusiana na education, lakini namna ambavyo wanatufanya kupuuza namna ambavyo tumeweza kuishi, na ndio namna the same way ambayo wameitumia kuja kutubadilishia, kutuletea mfumo mwingine. Hapo ndo kidogo napata shida, kwa sababu sitaki kuamini kwamba kama nisingefundishwa time of a distance chance ni kwamba ningechelewa.
So I think I think bandio
sema tu nikwambie kitu kimoja. Mathematics ina maana kwa sababu wazungu walitengeneza maisha ambayo lazima utumie mathematics kuyafikia. This means njia zetu nyingine zote zinaonekana hazina maana.
So now
kwa hiyo walitengeneza tatizo alafu akaja na solution.
So bandio
niko na jibu.
Okay, sawa. But I think what bandio is trying to put together here, and to a certain extent I agree with him. I think the problem with the way our education is imparted, or the way it's taught, for example mathematics, there's no connection to local examples. A lot of these formats of teaching are Western, and sometimes it takes something as simple as even names, like when kids are learning, it makes a big difference if you use Omondi or if you use Matthew. It makes a big difference. And even examples, using examples that they're already familiar with. So that doesn't happen. So you'll see a math problem in, like maybe a Kenyan setting, whereby they're talking about apples, whereby day to day, they're counting apples, where day to day, those children are not eating apples. The other fruits that they could use, or maybe they're using strawberries. Day to day, those kids are not using strawberries. So in those examples, it slows down the time it takes those kids to understand. Okay. Notice within American, British education systems, they localize the examples very much. Even those Arab countries that have started adapting some Western style education, they have experts who are localizing the examples where you're using how long it took Mr. Smith to clear snow. It is something very simple, but when it's used in a context where those kids who are learning that have never seen snow, it becomes a problem. Okay. And back to what Bandio was saying, I think what was lost with formal education is instinctive knowledge, which is what Bandio is talking about. So that has been lost, which is actually very important. And I'm going to give an example of my late grandmother, who never went to school, who could not read or write. When it came to mambo ya mapishi, hakuna ambaye alimfikia. I had, we had people in the family who had gone to utalii, who had gone to culinary schools and learned all these formal things, like the mathematical way of kupima unga na nini, like they can tell you milligrams. But now my grandmother was doing it instinctively. So that instinct is a very important part of education. And this nyingine is also important, but it becomes supplementary. So I think the push towards this other one has really lost the kind of knowledge that Bandio is talking about.
So Bandio, getting back to you, right?
Yeah.
Yes. And it's great you brought the example of navigation, right? And there's a reason why navigation was not done by everybody. there's a reason why navigation iko inafanya na mtu mgani mwenye amefundishwa, has been educated about navigation by the other fishermen and navigators who are there. Like sea captains wako haikuwa ni kitu ya ulikuwa unaanza kufundishwa kwa utoto, unafundishwa kwa unapandishwa kwa
like anything back then, unatoka kwa kitu kimoja.
At the end of the day, so it was still education, right?
Yes,
they were being educated, and it was still math, because the modern concept of math came from that. Kwa math kuna subject to circumnavigation, which you will calculate the distance of how ships are moving and they keep circumnavigate around the world. There was that, which came from navigation, from ancient navigation. So it's the issue is not the math. The issue is the evolution of that education to work with modern times right now.
Okay, that's my point. Hapo nakubaliana na wewe.
Okay, so hapo sasa ndo nasema hapo sasa issue si hesabu, ndo nakwambia wewe ndio au kufundishwa ile hesabu kulingana na ile njia ya kitambo, because hata ungepata long distance trader angekufundisha kutembea kutoka Bukoba mpaka Dar on certain circumstances it take long than ukitembea kutoka Bukoba mpaka Dar on other circumstances itakuwa shorter than kutembea nje nyingine. Kwa sababu gani? Ametembea, amefanya hiyo, ni hesabu ashapiga, awasha calculate out of going that route so many times they know it. So the same ni vile tu yeye tofauti yake na mwalimu kwa darasa akitumia modern concepts na utumia modern concepts, but still the same math. Same applies to Ali's grandmother, because Ali's grandmother was taught from a young age, right, kutumia her senses, kupima akipika.
Yes.
Anatumia taste, anatumia smell, anatumia sound.
Yes.
Anatumia sight akiangalia, right? The only difference ni ule mwenye ameenda culinary school anarahisishiwa asikuwe more dependent on her senses, akuwe more dependent on science. But at the end of the day, the goal was kupika. Ni vile huyu mwingine, since yeye yake inatoka from within yeye mwenyewe, yeye anaipika itakuwa tamu kushinda huyu mwingine, kwa sababu hiyo
kwa tamu Mika tuiache kuweka pembeni.
That's debatable.
That's debatable.
I'm just going back to what I said. So the thing is, the math was there. The only thing that we can say is the difference is the application of the mathematics.
Okay, so
because hata mimi sasa hivi mimi nilikuwa nafanya multiplication, is not the same way my 9-year-old niece is doing multiplication. It's totally different.
So mimi nitasema kitu kimoja. Amezungumza hapa Mika, and I totally agree. Kwanza Wacheka ameniuliza kwamba zamani kabla ya wazungu kuja kwa kuna mathematics. Yes, tulikuwa tunahesabu. Mimi nimekuwa katika zama ambazo kulikuwa ukienda nje ya nyumba ya bibi, kulikuwa kuna miti imewekwa viti 1, 2, na walikuwa wanajua kwamba jua la kivuli kikifika hapa ni muda wa mtoto kunywa uji, ikifika hapa ni muda wa kula. Kwa hiyo hata kama hawakuwa wanajua kwamba hii ni saa 6, hii ni saa 7, lakini kulikuwa kuna namna ya kucalculate muda wa siku. Walikuwa wanajua misimu, hakujua kwamba kuna fall, kuna winter, lakini walikuwa wanajua msimu gani tulime, mvua itakuja, itafanya hivi. Nakumbuka babu yangu mimi alikuwa anakuambia kesho mvua itanyesha kubwa sana, toeni vitu. Kwa sababu gani? Kwa sababu kama mvua itakuja kunyesha, ina maana kutoka kuna cloud cover, joto litakapokuwa linaondoka haliendi juu, kuna kwa kuko humid, ni vitu ambavyo tulikuwa tuna visense vyote. Leo hii hamna mtu anataka hivyo, anataka kuingia weather.com atasikia kesho kutakuwa kuna mvua. Si kwamba zamani hatakuwa na namna kufanya hivyo, ila sasa hivi kwa sababu wameshakuletea rice cooker, kupika kwa namna nyingine inaonekana wewe ni loko. Sawa? Na hii sitosoma, lakini nitakwambia, ukiangalia nilipata kuandika mwaka 2008, niandika post ambayo ilikuwa andika nasema soma anga, mawingu na nyota kama kitabu. Ukiangalia hiyo nilipata kwa mtu anaitwa Ndesanjo Macha, na amezungumzia mambo mengi ya kale, kuanzia wazungu na Waarabu walipofika kwetu wakasema maji ni haramu, maji mnavyotumia nyinyi mnakwenda sijui ni wachawi na nini, na bado maji hayo yakaingiza kanisani wakawabatiza. Maji hayo ukienda kwa Wabudha wale Wahindi kwenye ule mto wao Ganges ndio wanaotumika kufanya yote yale. Lakini ni same thing. Mawingu hayo tukifanya sisi ni wachawi. Kwa kitu ambacho wamefanya, wametengeneza mfumo ambao una suluhisho. Wametengeneza tatizo na mfumo, kisha wanatulazimisha wote kuingia humo ndani. Zamani hakuna leo kulalamika kwamba kuna umbali mrefu kutoka Dar kwenda Morogoro, mpaka magari yalipokuja ndio kagundua mimi zamani nilikuwa naendesha baiskeli for 2-3 hours. Siku ya kwanza nimeanza kuendesha pikipiki, that was the last time nimeendesha baiskeli. Kwa sababu at this point nimeanza kufikiria. Kwa hiyo ninachotaka kusema ni kwamba hesabu zilikuwepo. Ni kwamba dunia ya sasa imetengeneza tatizo linalotatuliwa na njia zao, sio njia zetu.
All right. Number to call, 202-683-4570. Press star 5 to speak. You're tuned into the One Mic Show. That was Mubelwa Bandio.
Can you say that in English?
na-
'Cause
na-
I didn't understand what he said.
So he said creating...
which
Si unajua
part?
Kiswahili?
So creating...
Which
So
part?
creating...
Tatizo, mifumbo, sijui.
No, creating problems to find solutions to them. You know, like
Oh.
Pretty much they
You know, like
created the
what-
problem, came up with a solution.
yeah, you know, like what President Ruto does.
So Ruto.
Yeah, what Ruto does.
Why did he just say
creates
Ruto?
problems. He creates problems, and then
He should have just said Ruto.
And then a few months later, he comes up with a solution to them.
That's what's happening, my friend. They
Oh,
said
no,
they
basically,
fight,
should
they
have
give the
just
gun.
Yeah.
And
So,
then they sit aside and make a solution.
for an example, President Ruto, he abducts people, and then he reached a broad-based agreement with Raila, and then one of the points is that they're gonna stop abductions. Yet they're the ones who are abducting people. But anyway,
Nasi
hii topic ya math. This was
Mimi
Nancy.
sitaki kuchallenge, ila namkaribisha Nancy
Yes.
kama anaweza akaschedule na Ali na nini, iwe special topic
Yes.
ambaye anaweza akajiunga via phone, Zoom,
Yes.
hata akitaka kututumia voice note kama Fridays anakuwa yuko busy, you know. Let's do something kwa sababu show ni kwa ajili ya wao.
Aya, sawa. Let's get back to the show. And before that, let me just read a few comments here that were coming through while we're talking. Apa Washeke said, isn't that why after JFK died, presidents stopped doing what our politicians do? And then Apa Slayer Nasema, there have been a few assassinations in Africa, Patrice Lumumba, Thomas Sankara, etc. But you're right, it's not a common occurrence. And then I see also Jodo Omole is in the building, and this is also in the building. And then Washeke anasema we had math before Wazungu. And then Jodopa anasema correction, math was invented in Kemet, modern day Egypt.
Yes.
And then hapa Washeke anasema Ali Badawi, I agree. That's why Asians are able to connect better with numbers. And then Jodo anasema subsidized education, American history ended with its industrialization, and slavery was not in the picture. Why brainwash education? And then Apa Washeke anasema, but those were by Western powers, now not by their fellow countrymen. We generally don't have a history, and in most instances, there's always a Western influence in an assassination in Africa. Then Washeke anasema, Slay anasema, Western powers used people close to them to orchestrate their assassination.
They're
So
still
I think,
doing that.
yeah. So I think hata issue pia ya presidential security na nini is something that we can have
Hiyo wanaita kikulacho
kinguoni mwako. Alafu sasa hapa we wanna go to President Ruto's development tour. Is there any comments coming in on YouTube, DJ Omosh?
No, it was just me karibisha watu to the show.
Okay.
Karibuni watu wa YouTube.
Okay, aya, sawa. Again, the number to call is 202-683-4570. Press star 5 to speak. We're here. We're talking about education. That wasn't part of the conversation, but that's what happens on the One Mic Show. Any audience member akisema nataka tuzungumzie kitu, we're going to talk about it. Now going back to Nairobi again, and just going back to where we had started, because we took a detour to talk about the British tourist who had been killed by President Ruto's motorcade. We know that President Ruto just wrapped up a week-long tour that looked more like a political campaign. We of course saw the speeches, the ribbon cutting, tarmacked roads being unveiled, and sewer lines being launched like they were tech startups. Also on the launch train were youth hubs and digital job centers with promises of rapid transformation. Now, many Kenyans are, however, asking, is this the turning point for Ruto's government, or is this just a dress rehearsal for 2027? Uno Mike, I'm going to start with you on this one.
My guy. This guy ametenga, amezidi kutenga, ameongezewa majina. It's the campaign has started. And
Did it ever end?
no.
Okay.
Yeah,
it took a pause.
That's a question.
It took a pause.
Aye? No.
When?
When was this pause?
Do you know when the pause was?
Maandamano.
To me, I don't
It
count
paused.
that.
No,
I don't
it
count
paused.
that. To me, I don't count that as a pause.
That was the
I just
pause.
count that as part of what was happening.
But explain what you mean by
because
the pause.
when I say it was a pause, because now whatever the plan was, because remember even before the campaign, before when he was campaigning to be president before elections, he was going around.
Correct.
Huyu mtu wa vitendawili.
Yes.
Hii hustler, hii ni hustler.
Yes.
Mambo itakuwa from 2500, gas ya mtungi itakuwa
yes,
itakuwa
yes.
500, itashuka, hustler fund. I mean all that. And then anaapishwa. What happens? Nothing happens at all. And on top of that, they start pushing a finance bill. Finance bill inaongeza ushuru. Prior to that, kulikuwa, it was ongezekaing. Whatever he had said he was going to do was not doing. Then people are like, no, this is not right. Okay, know what? Finance bill. So then,
quick question for you.
Yes, sir.
So before you continue,
yes,
was the housing thing part of his campaign?
Affordable housing.
Housing. Yes.
Was it a levy then when he was campaigning?
No,
or
it was never. No, the levy came after he became president.
You need to remember affordable housing ilianza kama kwa kweli nusu mkate watu wawili. No, not nusu mkate, ilianza na Uhuru.
So it was there before. It was part of Uhuru's thing, even the affordable housing, because nyumba zilikuwa zimetengenezwa.
Yeah.
And even at one point, I think nyumba zilikuwa they were being distributed.
Yeah.
Right? So when he gets into power, all those promises that he made
on his campaign
platform, they are not being fulfilled. In fact, if anything, is like, we're not going to tax people, we're going to improve lives, tutafutia watu kazi, ajira, sijui what not. Taxes zinaanza kupanda.
Yeah.
He comes up with a finance bill. Because remember, in the year before, taxes zikaongezeka. Watu walikuwa wananungunika. Whatever you look at it, however you look at it, from what angle, whatever he had promised, he had not fulfilled anything at all. He was not fulfilling. I mean, I would like to, let's kusema na kutenda, but not doing anything. It's only at this year when the finance bill, people kusema wakachoka, because you're going to increase taxes. Finance companies, companies are going to have manufacturing. You remember that whole debate that was going on about even there were town halls.
Yeah, the big conversation on
because because what he wanted to do was he wanted to really push that affordable area. Shafashi, Shifsha, Taifa Care, whatever, he was pushing it, NHIF and everything, and he had sent out his minions. So ideally, you could say that he's trying to do it so that he can now start get the ball rolling on campaigning. What ends up happening? Gen Z movement happens. It happens where now and whereby even we agreed that once it started happening, the guy had to do what? He had to fire his cabinet. Everything took a pause. At all. Not only does it take a pause, then there's a lot of murmuring and whatever. At some point, you start hearing, what? Raila is, okay, there's something. Raila joins, okay, so you have the top level leadership in ODM. Wanaingishwa nini? Cabinet.
Broad-based.
Yeah. Or bread-based or broad-based, whatever it is. For me, and actually when I was listening to the show, for me that was this. That for me was the sign, like, Upper, Baba, ODM, is handshake is en route. During the Gen Z protest, there was a pause. Totally. And I remember I was hearing you last week talk. Ruto was given a lifeline.
Absolutely.
By Baba.
Yeah.
He was given a lifeline. That lifeline, nile tu, it's a lifeline, nile tu, you see the heartbeat, and then now to solidify that MOU that you said was mataheko, like it was a lot of English words that saying nothing.
No, in fact, it was just very poorly prepared.
It was. Yeah. That now is campaign mode.
Was it poorly prepared? It was prepared in a way whereby I don't think it was poorly prepared, Ali. I think it was, the thing is this, you when you look at it, you're a political analyst, unapenda kuchambua siasa, unapenda kudinga nini. But let's look at it at the from a general mwananchi's perspective, right? What are the things people are complaining about? IBC, abductions, nini. So don't explain, don't tell people how. Just tell them you're going to do this and this and this.
That's
right?
exactly, I think.
Yeah.
And then that gives you that free way to go and talk huko campaign kuongea kufanya nini. So it wasn't hastily prepared. That was something that was prepared for the masses, ile kutuliza watu. Kama Tito chapo zake 1 million alipromise watu juzi.
No, I agree with you, Mika, and I think part of what we need to figure out how we're gonna solve our situation in Kenya is that these politicians have kind of mastered exactly what's on the mind of the masses. And the masses, of course, it's not us. It's the people on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
They have mastered that, and they know what's going to excite people when they're told. They know exactly what to say and when to say it and how to say it.
Ali, let me counter that.
Yes.
I mean, I'm in agreement at one point in time, yes. But I think there has been a shift, even in that thinking.
There has been a shift, but
And
the question there, I agree with you, there has been a shift.
Mm-hmm.
Has that shift moved enough to be able to convince people, to convince the entire population to vote for like a third force, for example?
Have you been in Twitter?
For that one, we shall know in 2027. Yes.
No, we don't even have to wait in 2027.
No, we don't have to go to 2027.
We can check with the by-elections that are going to come up after IBC is formed, because those are usually, they give you a snapshot of where people are from it's like a small polling exercise.
But I think also, I think the issue also is that even with that by-election and whatever is going on, and and you can probably educate us much better. IBC isn't there. Has it been constituted?
It hasn't been constituted, but it's
in
the process of being constituted.
Yes, Mika.
Uno, I think you're attacking this thing from a wrong perspective. And Ali has asked you a really good question and genuine question. Mm-hmm. Because when you say that the mind shift has shifted, it hasn't shifted. It hasn't shifted at all. And that is why you see these young kids, kina Morara, kina nani, wameanza kujialign na the older political parties, because they know there's nothing they're going to benefit. If they have political ambition, they're not going to do anything unless they join those political parties that they've joined. Kwa sababu gani? Even if you go on Twitter right now and you see the noise in Twitter, imepungua. It's just a few people who speak about it. Na wengi wanaongea tu ukiangalia, ni wengi watu ukiangalia hivyo naangalia.
Yeah, but you see
you're going to vote or you're going to be in the vote. Because people have started taking back the tribal alliances. Vile walikuwa kitambo. Yes, kuna hiyo campaign, kuna hiyo kelele. And that's why last week kwa show nikasema, if these guys are really smart, they should infiltrate these parties.
I remember that.
And make a change from that way.
Yes.
But hii kusema sijeti mindset ya watu
now I think like where I'm seeing the sense in what Mika is saying, because nowadays, like over time, I've started trying to look at things, like from what the people on the ground are thinking and not from what we ideally want. With what Mika is saying, even here in the diaspora, ukianza kuangalia, like with this broad-based, where there's been a slight shift is on Raila's constituency outside of Nyanza. Mm-hmm. Hapo, my feeling, and this is because of me knowing a lot of people, me myself being a Baba supporter for a long time, and knowing people, like from outside Nyanza who support Baba, that coalition from outside Nyanza is fractured. And this is something that I hope they're listening to. The Luo Nyanza, what do you call it? The Luo Nyanza constituency, that's still rock solid. And then now what has happened is that now the Murima constituency that has for the most part, always been against Baba, they're now back in that natural space where they're on the opposite side. So in as much as, yes, we would all like ideally to say that things have shifted, but when you start looking even at just people you know, even people out here in the diaspora, watch hata mashinani, even people out here in the diaspora, you can already see those tribal
Watu
groupings
wamerudi to default
taking
settings.
shape, unfortunately.
So
Very unfortunately.
so unasema their names are nini?
We'll betray them.
Are betraying them.
Very unfortunately, Omosh,
Is it generational based or is
Na
period?
ni side
it's
no, ni side zote.
it's period. I don't think it's even generational
Okay.
based. Uh,
Ni side zote.
remember when us guys were young, you know, like when my millennials we were like in our 1920 huko, were being told ati ni nyinyi sasa ndo mnakuja kumaliza ukabila. So I'm seeing the same pattern with Gen Zs where we are saying wao ndo wanakuja kumaliza ukabila.
However,
But then when you think about it, the way ukabila is being used, ukabila in the old days was based on the fact that this is who you knew. You mostly knew people from your tribe. But then it morphed, and at some point it became that's how politics is organized. Any politics in Kenya is organized like sports. Like kama if you are Baltimore Raven,
mnapangwa,
you are
yes.
Baltimore Raven. So now even mtu ayuko affiliated na tribe yake, hata ajui language, but anajua politically I am supposed to align in this direction, or politically I'm supposed to align in that direction.